Okay, so let's
Just
get
buckle up to the
rocking.
sweat and let's go.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, well, welcome, ladies. How are you guys doing? It's good to see you all.
Doing well, doing well.
Doing pretty good. Hanging
Everybody
in.
had
Oh,
a good week.
oh, we're recording?
Yeah, we're definitely recording.
Okay, sorry, I was praying, so I didn't look up and see the timer on.
I didn't either. It's
Oh,
okay.
thank you, Shana. You didn't either.
No.
No, this has been a good week. Again, one of those weeks where the trials and tribulations came through, but I pushed through, got through it. But friend, I know you had a great weekend.
I did. I celebrated my birthday. It's March 4th. So we did a cooking class. I wish you had been there, but Shay came out. We did a cooking class. They taught us to make lobster ravioli. We had gelato at the end. It was a lot of fun. We'll probably post on our social media page. So another year, a year wiser, more life lessons.
I
Yes.
love it. I
Happy
love it.
birthday. Yeah, it
Happy
was
early
great.
birthday.
Actually, I think I could. I feel very confident in making ravioli now. I wish I would take the little recipe, but I think I got all the steps down packed. So, or something like that. But yeah, I had a really good time. So thanks for the invite.
Of course, of course. So what are we talking about this week? What's on our minds this week?
Well, this week we're going to be diving in first. Happy Women's History Month. This is the kickoff. So, as amazing women that we are, we want to make sure that we definitely just acknowledge all the women who came before us to make this possible, right? Like there was a time we couldn't even do stuff like this, right? We could not be in these positions, not just the podcast, right? Like in our career choices, and be able to say that, hey, this is, my body, this is the life that I want. So just kudos, and a lot of them on my earrings, if y'all can see. Kudos to a lot of the women who made it possible. And I just want to shout out a lot of the Black women who made it possible for us. Because as we know, it's always, we as Black women, we always have that double negative that we have to turn to that positive all the time. So just kudos to being able to sit here with some strong Black women, for the strong Black women that came before us. And with that being said, we're going to be talking about who taught us how to be a woman. And man, I know that's like a really full topic, because that can mean so many different things from so many different angles.
I
Yeah, for
agree.
sure. For sure. And I think like it all depends on like a lot of factors actually, like our environment, who we've had around us, who really and what is it, right? I think we're all gonna come and talk about how we have different perspectives on femininity. Um so inside joke, y'all. I'm just saying it because Neek does not like that word. But just
He doesn't like a lot of words.
She likes the word. It's just the pronunciation. Let's go
but
on.
right.
She doesn't like to be a what we don't want to put that out there.
Right, disclaimer. But speaking of disclaimers, also because we have been getting into more episodes, we definitely want to preface this episode with saying that things that we talk about may be triggering and may open up old wounds for you all. So this topic may be one of those topics, and so we definitely want to, acknowledge that. And if you do need to process afterwards, as always, go with your therapist, talk to your support people, because we definitely want to make sure that you feel supported in this space as well. So. All right,
And I
lady.
just want to just build off of Franny's disclaimer. I also want to also acknowledge, because as we do more episodes, we are getting some amazing feedback, and I thank you all for engaging with these episodes, really letting us know, letting other people know where it's touching you. But I do want to also share that as we talk about our personal experiences, know that this is coming from a place of love. I know we've shared a lot when it comes about family, like past experiences, but it's one of those things where these are our stories, right? But we do come from a place of love when we think about what family looks like, different situations and scenarios that we also put out there. So I just want to also share that everything that we share is our truth. And we are in this space where we're owning our truth and want to share with the world. But we also know that there's other characters in our story. And with that being said, everything that we share is coming from a place of love.
Yes, I agree to that.
Awesome. Well, with that being said, Franny, because you got some beautiful light today. Let's go ahead and you start with the
Come
who
through.
taught you, when you think about this question, right? Like, who taught you how to be a woman? Like, what's top of mind?
Oh, even so, when you say that, it jumps into, for me, it's the question is like, what is a woman? So I know the who, we're gonna get to that, but the what is a woman is what's standing out to me. And so for me, it's been defined by, I'll say, society a lot, right? Like that has been a really big influence. But also, I've had some prominent women in my life, right? Like my mom, my grandmothers, my stepmom. And so for me, I guess the biggest influence would be my mother, right? That's who I have the closest relationship with. And seeing how she's played her role as being a wife, as being a mother, and not only like the positive from her, but also the stuff that I'm like, I think that I want to do this a different way. So for me, being a woman is um, being empowered, not doing life alone. I really want to say cooking because I feel like I have to, but I don't think that for me, that's what femininity is. Now, don't get it wrong, because last episode, y'all try to come for me on my Canadian food. A girl can cook, but do I like to? Absolutely not. Do I like to dial up a little, Chinese food or DoorDash? Most definitely. I feel like I need all the support that I can, being a mother and working a million jobs. But no, and also included in my femininity is just how I feel about myself, my confidence, my self-worth. I love to get my nails done. Everybody knows that. I love trying new hairstyles. So I think that's all included in my femininity.
I love it. I love it. Go ahead, Shay. Like you got something on your mind.
Yeah, no. When I think about it, I just think about my lineage. That's the first thing. Like even what you said, Freddie. I think about my mom. I think about my grandma, and I think about my aunts. But I also feel like I get stuck on a question a little bit of like, who taught me how to be a woman? I feel like I'm still developing that. I probably was the biggest tomboy growing up, so I was more, playing sports, rough, things like that. But when I got older, started transitioning to more like started going more into like, wanting to wear heels and things of that nature. I think about that perspective as well. But who taught me how to be a woman? That's a deep question. Um, I think my mom gave me a perspective of being a woman. I did used to watch her get ready and stuff like that. Um, but she also gave me a perspective from a standpoint too, some that I didn't quite grasp the whole thing. Like, hey, this part works out and this part doesn't. I also think about like my aunts as well, because I grew up with moving around quite a bit. I lived with my mom for a little bit, then I moved with my aunts, and so I think that their influence also is present as far as like my aunt would love to cook. Like she was a woman that cooked from scratch, and I'll never get to that point of like that whole ravioli class we took. She probably could do that, you know, but I could never get to that point. So I think about it from that perspective, but I also think about some of the other perspectives I had of like how to be in a relationship as a woman that I quite did not say, no, that's not me, and I never, I shied away from those experiences. So I think I'm just kind of struggling with the topic a little bit just because I feel like I never really honed in on who taught me how to be a woman. So it's taking me to take a step back to really dial in into like, okay, how am I where I'm at now? A lot of it was trial and error too. Just going through life, trying to figure it out. Does this work? And then using the people around me, like the book club and just different women I met in my life that I admire to and I look up to. And like, okay, I like the way she's handling this. Maybe I need to gravitate towards that a little bit. So that's kind of my definition. I feel like I was all over the place with that, but hopefully it made sense.
No, that made perfect sense. I think there's no right answer, right? When we think about who define what it means to be a woman. And when I think about it from my perspective, going back to what Franny said about, what it doesn't mean to be a woman before we get to the who, I think for me, not even thinking about the feminine side, like I'll talk about that a little bit later. I think for me, the definition of kind of came
You got
from.
me.
Yep, you caught out for a second. The definition of
Oh, I must have froze.
you did. It's okay though.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
You back up.
No, when I think about the definition of what it means to be a woman, because like I said, I didn't really have that feminine side. I'll talk about that later. But I always looked at it from just my examples of women as just being like a hardworking, independent woman. When I think about, because I grew up like my grandmother and things like that, my aunt, even my mom. I had all these women around me in my family who were just like hardworking. Like they did what they had to do to make sure that their family was good, right? So when I think about what it means to be a woman, my mindset was just like, I gotta be hardworking. And I think, Franny, I think you talked about the relationship part a little bit. My definition is always just I gotta be a hardworking woman, right? It never was like I need to be a gentle, soft woman so I can get a husband or a man. Like that never was the examples that I had until like maybe around like teenage years, like when my aunt got married, things like that. That's when I started thinking about like, oh, maybe I do want a husband or something, or like, oh, the family side of what it means to be a woman. But when I think about who shaped me in regards to what it means to be a woman, I would definitely say my family. Like I said, like growing up and having the women in my household, like my aunt, my grandma, my mom, even my older sister, like I saw this group of women who were really confident. And it's crazy because like I shared before, like I didn't have the most confidence growing up, but yeah, I was in a household with women who were really confident in knowing who they were. And I think a lot of that just has to do with like how they grew up, things like that. But seeing all these women who are confident, seeing all these women who are getting ish done, right? Seeing all these women who, have men who want them and dating and things like that. Those were what I saw in the house. And I was like, oh, that's what I want, right? That's what it means to be a woman. But then the outside factors of like women, like in my church, or women who kind of took me under their wings as I got older, right? When I think about the women when I met that were in college. And I think the crazy thing when I think about this topic, the common thing that these women had was confidence. Just confidence in knowing who they were, confidence in accepting their situations, their reality, and being able to kind of pour that into me. So even though it took me a little bit longer for those seeds to be planted and for me to have that confidence, I will say now that I think about it, as my confidence got to start to grow as I got older, a lot of it is because of what I've seen in regards to the confidence of women. I think that was all over the place too, but I hope that made sense.
No, it did. Because honestly, it got my wheels turning a little bit. I think that's why I'm struggling, is because although I had an example of it, what a woman is, or who taught me, like this topic is just really interesting. But I think I'm wondering if I was a stubborn teen and I was just so much in like I don't like none of it because I'm struggling with how do I survive, and I don't want to keep making that the same repetitive thing. But the reality is I didn't have that example of what a hardworking woman is. I mean, my like we from the hood now. Like I knew what it was like to hustle. I knew what it was like to get ahead that way, but not far as relying on your own. And I think that's the part that kind of I guess I'm struggling with a little bit because I didn't have that poured into me of how do you become this hardworking woman, because the reason why I did is because of lack of, right?
Yeah.
And so that made me develop this skill set, and it also made me shy away from some of the women that were in my life that I could have taken some things that could have helped me out in like relationships, the biggest thing, because I was like, no, I got it. And honestly, I did not have it at all. And I know we're going to talk about relationships, but I feel like my mom used to always say, if you was just like me, you wouldn't be going. I'm like, you're right. I need to pick some of that up. I ain't had to throw it all down. Some of it was useful. And I think that, yeah, that's all I got. I think that it's just a hard topic a little bit for me.
Yeah, I guess, no, that makes sense. And when we think about relationships and who kind of shaped us, Franny, I would love, because I think you probably are the most stable person here. Let me finish. When it comes to actually being in a two-parent house, like your mom married, right? So you got to see that perspective of what it looks like for a woman to be a wife, a mother, and kind of still have their independence. So I'm just curious, like, what did you pick up from that experience?
Yeah, I guess I do have that perspective, right? because I essentially did grow up in a 2-parent household. You know, my mom was very much the wife, right? Had dinner ready, dinner, you know, cooked for my stepfather when he was home, you know, did the chores. Of course, we pitched in. So, I mean, seeing that as an example, sure. I don't know if I took that to be like, oh, this is how you be a woman. Like, you cook for your husband, you clean up the house. I might have rebelled against it, honestly. I think I don't want to jump ahead and get into relationships, but I think it's relevant right now. For me in relationships, I've been told like that I'm not, I won't say not soft enough, but I've been told like that I kind of act like the guy sometimes, in the sense of, hold on, in the sense of like how I respond to things, or how I'm just able to like carefree, easily able to like walk away from things, or even just how I respond to text messages, I guess. And so I think those for me were like learned, like picked up habits that I've learned along the way. Those were just responses that I use to protect myself in relationships. So I don't think that was necessarily taught to me. And I think now that we're talking a little bit more about it, I kind of am like Shannon, like, damn, who really did like teach me? Because it's not like a sit down and like, you know, in a classroom, like, this is what you do to keep a man. This is what you do to da da da, right?
Exactly.
So it's just, I guess, the influences around us, you know. So having my mother, you know, as an example for sure was there. But as far as like now the woman I am now, or what I choose to do in relationships, what I choose to do as a mother, as being a woman, has just been picked up along the way. I mean, somehow God made all the pieces come together, and it's working. It's working. But I know a lot of people are talking about like the soft girl era, like that's all you see now. And I guess that's, I don't know, what's the definition of it, Shane? I know we talked about it earlier.
Like self-love, self-care, just more peace in your life, and not all of that. So I think that that's really what it is, like this feminine movement, which is a good thing, because honestly I think as Black women we kind of shy away from it a little bit. So I think I like that the spotlight is on that. So it's kind of like, hey, let us, you know, take the peaceful route.
Yeah. I mean, do you feel like you're in that era? Either of you?
I feel like I'm moving towards that era. I think that, but it took a lot of self work first. Like, it took a lot for me to, and that's through therapy, of having to take a step back, because all of this kind of activates, unfortunately, in a relationship where you being judged by somebody else. Because I think it's just like you. I hate this question is, are you affectionate? And to me, I'm like, with the right person, yeah. But it's not like no general, like I'm affectionate with everybody. And I think so, more so what I was sharing with you guys of like everything that my mom is going through, I feel as if I'm less affectionate. And I don't know if it's because I'm just really trying to protect myself. And that I'm just trying to protect myself, I guess. I don't know. I'm kind of taking a step back. But yeah, I would say I'm working on my feminine energy. I'm working on just being cool. I think that's getting my health together. That's trying to have boundaries at work. That's trying to have boundaries with my family. I think that that's all aiding into being in this feminine energy. Is because if you're so chaotic, you feel like you're always trying to put things together. You don't have the space to actually operate in that energy, because it's like I'm solving problems and I'm managing kids, which it doesn't go away. It's just how you do that, how you move is the difference. It's like if I get these things in order and it's not chaotic, then I have a little bit more peace and a little bit more space to be able to operate in that energy. Because if I'm operating in chaos, it's gonna be very it won't be feminine energy, because I'm just like going 1,000 miles per hour, not even tuning into everything, not tuning into myself, which is the most important thing.
Yeah. And I think you made a really good point about like being affectionate to the right person. And I think that's what really unleashes that like safety to be feminine and have that feminine energy. Because I'm very affectionate, I'm very overly sensitive. So everybody got all the love who did not deserve it. So therefore, being overly affectionate but in chaos is also a bad combination, right? Because now all your emotions is in this. You're overly sensitive. You're trying to be, you know, that girlfriend or that wife, but it's not with the person who's matching that energy. So you start to feel drained. You start to feel like, you know, grasping for straws to figure out what peace looks like, because you don't have peace here, right? But you're giving everything to kind of find that peace. So Franny, when you asked the question of like, do we feel like we have that feminine energy? Do we feel like we're in that space right now? I will say for me, I'm getting there. You know, I think for me, I had to be alone for a while in order to figure out, one, what does feminine energy even looks like for me? Because I had to figure out who am I first. I had to figure out who am I, what type of woman am I, and then from there be able to build. And then that's where I start to realize how important peace is. I think I never looked at peace the way that I look at it now. It's just being able to sit with yourself. This is how I look at it. Being able to sit with yourself, to be able to reflect and just relax. And I think we kind of touched on that in our last episode when we talked about, like, you know, how we are always going, how we're doing so much, and that ability to just kind of like separate everything that we're doing to find that place of like peace or being able to relax. So when I think about feminine energy from that perspective, for me, it's like finding that peace within myself. And then from there, how do I give that peace? Because feminine energy, peace, I'm putting it all together. How do I be okay with sharing that with someone else? And I think it's also, they have to be like whatever masculine energy they need, right? They need to have that too for it to actually work. You know, you can't have all this feminine energy. You're giving everything, and this other person's in like chaos, right? Or they're not willing to do the work to fix themselves because you're pouring, and now you're empty and you still got to do everything. So, and I think that takes us back to like, well, do I have the masculine energy or the feminine? Like, I'm giving you all my feminine energy, but I still got to pick up all the pieces to make sure we're still going. So I might well be the man. Like, it's easier to go that route versus trying to like pretend that I'm in this feminine relationship when reality is all an act. So peace means I don't got to act. So if that means I have to be alone until that person comes my way, then that's fine.
Yeah, I think something has to activate your feminine energy. Like, honestly, I've had very few relationships where I've been able to just like be in my feminine energy. You know what I'm saying? And so, and this isn't to talk bad about my relationships, but I do have to feel safe to be whatever you consider to be feminine or to be the woman in the relationship. Like, I don't want to have to be the healer, the nurturer, the breadwinner, the, you know, DEFG, whatever. I want to be able to be, you know, feminine, but I have to feel safe enough for that to happen. And so that also makes me think about like the topic of submissiveness. What do you all think about that? Because that is like a major, I've had this argument in different relationships, even just among friendships. What do you all think about like a woman being submissive?
To the right person. It's the same thing. It's literally the same thing. Like, you have to feel safe. You have to feel like, hey, they got it in order for you to submit. I don't think it's just given to just anybody, right? In this relationship, you gonna work towards it. You're gonna see what it's like. I think, especially if you come with a super independent woman, it takes a little bit longer for that person to become submissive. But it's all about how safe you feel and how that person is responding and showing up. If they're showing up and they're doing exactly what they said, like, hey, I'm gonna do this, and they taking care of it, and you feel like, okay, now I can step back. That's all that it is. But just openly because you're a man, that I should submit, that would never work. It would never work. We have too much going on. We got bills that we like. I don't know. I haven't been in a lot of relationships where I feel safe enough to submit or feel safe enough to be in my femininity. Is it right? Energy. Not just that's what y'all. But I haven't done that. So like you, Nick, I took some time, like a lot of time away, because I really, really, really want to work on myself, because I needed to know. I didn't want to just accept a man just to have a man. I wanted to make sure that the next relationship I get in is somebody that is for me, not just because I'm lonely or I want somebody. It has to be right.
Mhm.
And I think it started with me working on myself and to understand myself a little bit. And the other part I know you asked this question, but I do want to point on one thing too, because the topic, who taught us to be a woman? I have a daughter. And I think about this all the time
Mhm.
of how I'm teaching her and how she's looking up to me. She does see me work hard. Like that's probably our thing that sometimes I'm always on edge about, am I working too much, but also just like her owning herself and being confident, because I didn't have that either. So
Yeah.
if I could teach her confidence in who she is as a person, who she is as a young little lady that's growing, is going to be a young woman, that's going to be a woman, that's the most important thing to me. So I'm always like looking at how I carry myself because I know she's watching.
And I was going to ask you guys that because I'm the only one that doesn't have a daughter. And I was going to say, do you all think about that, right? Because now you're the examples, right? So, and they're not too far in age difference, right?
My daughter's 10 and
Dream's
Yeah.
13.
Oh my God.
So no, not too far. I think when I think about my daughter, about like teaching her how to be a woman, I think confidence, that's the biggest thing that I installed in her. And I think from there, it just like, it blossomed, right? Because I will say, like, when it comes to things, and I know we haven't talked about, like, when it comes to like makeup, hair, just all the things that make us feminine, right? She embodies that, she embraces that. And I will say, I think there's a lot of it has to do maybe genetics from her dad, but her dad also installs a lot of that into her too. So I think also with my daughter is more of those things where, her dad talks about this with her, like, I mean, I talk about hair and stuff like that, but like if she's with him, like, yeah, we're going to style your hair. You're not going to wear it down. Or when it comes to like, oh, does this dress go with these shoes? Like her dad and her stepmom, like we'll send pictures back and forth. And they're like, oh yeah, she should take that purse with it. So like, I think I embrace the people who can help her in those areas and kind of just grow from there. I think for me, I'm also teaching her to be hardworking. And I think her thing is like, I ain't gonna work as hard as you. You work too much. But I think it's also her environment. But I think the biggest thing is she wants to be who she is. So there's no real definition. Like I got to be overly feminine, or I'm a tomboy. It's like I like this. It's okay to like this, and this is who I am. And I think she did get that from me, and it took me a while to do that. Like I went through the stages of just like dressing up and all these other things. And not saying I don't like that. I really, really enjoy that. But does it have to be my identity? Right. So like being able to find that balance, I think Dream is on a pretty good path of that. But when I think about, y'all brought up cooking and stuff like that, I enjoy cooking some dishes. However, Dream will go in there and like ask for like apples and flour to make dough. Like she up to making apple pies. I'm not making no apple pie. So like I think it's a lot of things that she just kind of picked up on her own, but we do it together, right? So like I feel like it's one of those things where I may not be strong in these areas, but I'm enjoying being able to kind of learn more about the feminine side of some of this stuff with my daughter. So that has actually been like a really, really amazing experience.
Yeah, I agree with that because my daughter is just like, I grew up in the era that some things gonna match. She just want to feel comfortable. She don't care what it look like. I'm just like, okay, and she tell me like I'm dressing for comfort. Like that's her thing, and I like what you said about that because even my daughter, she wants to be a baker, and I'm like, you sure you want to go to school for business? Like, you sure you don't want to be an accountant? You sure you don't want to go for finance? You want something more stable? But it also makes me feel good that I was able to build a life where she didn't have to feel like, hey, I gotta work that hard. She can explore her passions and try to figure it out from there. So that makes me feel good too.
Yeah. I guess on the flip side of having a son, right? I'm so very intentional about the things that I feed to my son, because I always think of like the men that I've dated in the past that weren't good for me. Like, what did your mother teach you? Like, what did she not give you that you're treating women like this? And the crazy thing is, like, a lot of men that I've dated, like, they've had like these so-called close relationships with their mother, and those are the ones that treated me the worst. And so I've always like kept that in the back of my mind, like, okay, what am I teaching my son? Because when you go out and date these women, like, you're a reflection of me in a sense. But I also want you to be, aware of, your impact, like how you can just be so impactful in a relationship. Because I think about like my first relationship and how like I feel like if I didn't date him, I'd be a different person. Like he had just such an influence on how I enter into relationships, how I am in relationships. And it's taken years and years to undo some of the things that, you know, he did. And so I just don't want my son to be that person. And so I've been very intentional, even like us just going on dates. I'm like, come on, like, let's go on a date. And so one thing when he was younger, he used to hate, and he still kind of does. He's like, I don't understand why I have to walk on this side of the road. And I was like, well, and so I know like the meaning of it, right? But I was like, because like you're the man, so if a car hits us, you got to get hit first. And again, I'm being funny. And so he was like, why do I got to die first? And so it's just a whole joke between us. And so it's just a whole joke between us. But even like the holding open the door, he's like, I thought women wanted to be equal. Why do I have to hold the door open? I said, boy, you better hold this door open for me. I don't even touch the door because you're gonna hold this door open for me. But just little things like that society has told us that like men have to do or whatever. But yeah, I very much so think that with our young men especially, it's so important that we're teaching them how to treat women and vice versa, right? Like you should be teaching your daughters how to treat men. You know what I mean?
For sure.
I don't know if you've had those conversations with them yet. I mean, well, I know you both of your boys are old enough to have those conversations with.
Oh,
yeah.
So my son is 17.
Yeah.
So we definitely had those conversations. It is so funny because he holds the door and stuff like that too. But this kid will hold the door for everybody. I mean, like we sit here waiting 5 minutes because everybody, it could be somebody all the way down. He's still holding the door. So it's ingrained in him. He got it.
You like that too, but then I'm like, oh, did she say thank you? Did you tell my son thank you? Because you're gonna, because you saw him hold the door open, right? Don't just walk in. But yeah, no, you were gonna say something.
That's funny. Yeah, no, because with my oldest, he'll be 21 this month, and I will say that it's definitely ingrained in him how to treat a woman. I believe with John, with his relationships that he's had, he's always been a really good, kind-hearted man, and I think that has a lot to do with just like with me, him seeing like his grandma, and even I'll give his dad props too. Just like when you have men in your life who don't treat women bad, like you're going to pick up on those things. So again, it goes back to, the men that he has seen in his life is two things have happened. Either he saw the men who treated women really well and he picked up on that. And then men who he saw didn't treat women well, he said, I don't want to do that. So it's like, you kind of learn from, your surroundings and what you see. So I think for my oldest, I'm not worried so far. I know he is one of those people who he wants a wife, right? When he gets to that age, but he wants to be able to provide for her. He doesn't look at things as the equal. He wants to be able to be in a relationship long-term, one wife, one baby mama, as he say, and he just wants to be able to provide. So I think that's why he's really intentional about, how he moves in the dating. And I give him props like that. He's not one who goes from like woman to woman, this and that, third. Like when he has relationships, they're usually really long-term relationships. And for him not to be 21 and already have that mindset, I think that's great. But I think that also comes from the fact of one, his dad having such a long-term relationship with his wife, and then seeing his mom have all these short-term relationships. So it's the balance. Like I don't want that. So I think he's really, really intentional with that. And when you brought up that, Franny, about like what are we teaching our daughters how to kind of deal with men and make sure they're treating men correctly. I think when I think about my daughter and just like how she interacts, I think she is more so on that, that equal thing. And I think sometimes I have to kind of pull that back because I believe in like being equal, right? But I don't want her to get in situations where she feels like she has to quote unquote take care. I think there's a level of taking care of a man when you're in a relationship, right? But I don't want her to look at it like, well, he's down on his luck and I should do this. There's like levels to that, right? Like there's different, like that shouldn't be like the start of your relationship. If you're in a relationship and something happens, yes, you should be that person to support. But I'm trying to shift that mindset where it's not that you're looking like if they're not in a good position, leave them be till they get in a good position. But it's not your job to build them to get to that good position. So I think that's what I'm installing when I think about like how I want my daughter to kind of navigate men and her own feminine energy.
That's very
Better
deep.
forget
My
that.
daughter's 10. So
Yeah.
her
Struggle.
date not even has not even, made its way to my mind yet. But yeah, I want to teach her the same things basically. I'm just trying to think like she's not there yet. She's not there. She don't even say like, oh, I think this boy is cute. She is just really my artsy girl. Like she's really into art, baking, things of that nature, science and stuff like that. So she really focused on that. She's still young, so I'm very conscientious though. She has never seen me date, so I, she's also my clingy child. So the one that I probably nursed a little too long. And I think that the idea of me dating to her is like, absolutely not. You're my mom. So I think that it's going to be interesting because I think I'm getting to that point where I'm ready to, get out there. So I don't know. We'll see how this goes. But I definitely want her to just be confident in who she is and really had a space to identify who she is before she even gets to that point of dating. And that's what I teach my son too, is he's only 17. Don't be too serious too quick, give me a space to figure out who you are as a man, what you want in life, because you don't want to be boggled down by something that's taking you away from to developing who you are. So those are some of the biggest lessons that I teach both of them.
And it's crazy that you said that, because when we think about who taught us how to be a woman, when we think about feminine energy, what's really dope when I think about these stories, when we talk about our kids, is we're giving them opportunities, and like they don't have to hurry up and figure this stuff out. And I think that's dope. And I know we talked about some of this in like our parenting episode. It's just like we're giving them the tools to kind of figure it out. Like they don't have to be like Shane, the fact that you said like your daughter, you're not even thinking about that about your daughter, but we think about it, there's so many young girls out there who are already thinking about this at that age, who are already like put in these positions where they want to grow up fast and stuff like that. But we're allowing our kids to be kids. Yep. And I just smile when I think about that. Like we're not putting all this pressure, or we're not showing them something where they want to mimic that's not positive. And I think that has a lot to do with our own healing. It's like as we heal, they also reap the benefits of that, because we're showing them something different. And I think that allows them to kind of tap into like what their feminine, I'll say masculine energy too, because we have boys too, right? It allows them to tap into it a little bit differently. So I just wanted to call it out. That's pretty dope.
Yeah. Legos and all of that. She's just a kid. But something I was thinking about too, as we were talking about this of who taught us how to be a woman, I think about even with my childhood. I think growing up in the 90s, like I kind of grew up where the community can raise you too. And I just remember this story of two things that come to mind. I remember going to the store riding my bike, and my bike fell, and I was like, dang. And so this lady just walking past me, little girls don't say dang. We don't talk like that. And it was just like, oh, okay. Like it was just a seed, because all these years later, I still remember that. And I also remember riding my bike. I told you I was a tomboy with a skirt on, no shorts under it. This lady stopped me. No, go in the house, put some shorts on. So it's like that, like different people just pouring little seeds into you that you don't even realize. Yeah. But it's still with me. Every time I wore a skirt, and I knew I put on some shorts after that. So it might not necessarily be the direct line, like you were saying, nature versus nurture. Like people just in an environment just saying one little thing that they see and they want to catch it. Like, oh no, a little lady don't say words like that. You don't talk like that. Things like that. So I also want to point that out, like. It's just a community, and being able to talk to kids at that age. I don't think some people would do that now because whatever that's going on with the world. Like you can't parent no other kid, but yeah.
No, that's a really good point. And I just want to Franny, I don't think everybody got to see her nails, because I want to kind of touch bases on that part of being feminine. Just being able to Right. Being able to like really identify yourself when it comes to like how we, our outer appearance, right? Like how we do like our makeup, like how much time we put on like our nails and like outfits and earrings and things like that. I think that part, or even walking in heels, like to this day, I still can't walk in heels. And usually if y'all went out with me, y'all know I probably fell a couple times, soberly fell too. That's the
You
crazy
walking
part.
like,
Like,
where's she at?
like usually walk, disappear, come back. I'm here. I'm okay. I'm okay.
So
Let's do this
serious.
again. But I think that's the part that if I could turn back the hands of time, like I wish I would have like probably asked more questions about, right? Like, you know, it's not like I didn't see like the women in my family like get dressed up or things like that, but I never like sat there and just watched them and things like that. I think for me, even when it comes to makeup, like I didn't really, the first time I wore makeup was prom. And I remember my godmother helped me do my makeup. Like I never really had that where it's like, oh, I want makeup, or you know, I want the lashes, or even when it came to like eyebrows and stuff like that, like I didn't start doing that stuff until like after graduating high school. So it never was really ingrained in me. But I think because I do it more often now, that is one trait that I have like kind of show dream. Like she likes to get her nails done. She likes to do this or that. So I'm always curious about women who like really are big into like, you know, dress fashion, you know, take more time to their nails. Like usually I say, give me the color, I'll take it. But when I see like friend, I love like every time Franny posts her nails, I'm like, dang, that looks beautiful. And I have another friend too who has this, is the same thing. Like they take so much time and detail, and I feel like that's so beautiful. Then I get exhausted. Like I would have to sit down and figure out a design. It's gonna take me hours. And then like
Say, I'm good. Just give me a color.
so right, just give me color, just give me the palette. And I like, and if it takes too long, just give me whatever color's already on my nails, just redo it. Like I never had the patience, but I do like, I love watching women who have the patience and time to really, you know, think about like their outer. And I think about that when I think about feminine energy is like really honing in on like your day to day look. Like I grew up in an era where, well, in the 90s, where women, they just go to the store and they dress up. You know what I mean? Like it's not always about like going out or going to work. Like just their every day was just like, I gotta put on my face. I gotta make sure this outfit looks good. I gotta make sure I'm matching. So I'm always like intrigued with that. So that's something I'm trying to build, but that's not something I grew up with.
Yeah, and don't like, let's not get it twisted. I'm not like a super girly girl. I just love being a woman and being able to express myself through getting my nails and my hair done. So I don't want y'all to get it like I'm full face every day, or, you know, but I do enjoy being a woman. And also like it's that balance, right? Like being able to wear like, you know, sneakers and being able to be a homebody and being, you know, at home. So it doesn't just have to be like dressing up and in heels. Like I love a good pair of heels, but baby, when I get home, all of it's coming off. You know, like it is, because I also enjoy just being, you know, in my own space and just, you know, no, just looking like a bum, you know, no makeup, no nothing. But no, that I think that is a really important for me right now, I guess, as an adult and getting older and, you know, adding on another year of life in a few days. It's important for me to find to also like acknowledge some things that I do want to kind of develop in my character. Like like we talked about affection, like I do want to be more affectionate and kind of be able to take down my guard in, you know, my next relationship that I'm in. Being able to, you know, let down the masculine energy, being affectionate. And to me, affectionate isn't just like, oh, I love you, this and that, but like being able to be vulnerable, I'll say, be vulnerable with my mate, and being able to trust that he can lead me. Because again, if I'm like letting you make decisions, if I'm letting you lead my household, if I'm letting you like pay the bills, because I've had a guy that was like, you're not letting me be a leader. Sir, you don't pay any bills. I have to take care of the bills and make decisions. And you want to be a leader?
Yeah.
What? You got to make it make sense. But and it's beyond financial, right? But it's still, it was just like me being able to, again, and I don't want to go because we already talked about the topic, but just being able to be like, all right, he's got, he's got.
Yes, yes,
So yeah.
yes. And I think, and when I think about that, you know, and trust me, Franny, I've seen you, and I'm gonna call you bum. I've seen you just like chill out and everything. So I definitely know that part. But I think one thing when we think about people who did not have any examples, right? When we think about like, you know, women who are around our age or older who's just like, no one taught me how to be a woman. I'm still struggling with that. I'm still trying to figure that out. I think the one thing that we all kind of shared in the same sentiment was, one, figuring out who you are first, right? Like that's so important. It's like the center of it. Like if you don't feel like you have confidence, if you don't feel like, I'm not the woman that I feel is portrayed in media or I see other people, that's okay. It all starts within ourselves. And I think, like Shay, when you gave the definition, that self-care, that self-love, I think those are the two main starting points to kind of figuring out what that feminine energy looks like. So nothing to do with man, nothing to do with relationship. I think it starts with us as women of who do we accept and love ourselves enough to give ourselves that permission to have that feminine energy.
And exploring a little bit. I want to say that too. Cause like if you don't, get the nails done or the hair done and you admire by that, just try it out. See what you like. Cause I was more so like prom was the first time I kind of did it up too. Me and my sister was talking about this earlier, and she was like, "Yeah, you was like loving basketball. Did Nike make that dress?" And I was like, "You're right." She was like, "Yeah, you didn't know how to walk or nothing. We were just having a good time about it." But that's the reality. I think like the older I get, the more I'm leaning towards that, and maybe that's really what it is. I'm leaning and learning as I go, like learning about the makeup. Like I'll sit on YouTube trying to figure it out, learning about like different things about myself that I think is more feminine that I didn't quite possess, So I'll buy heels and they can sit in the closet because I like the way they look.
Yeah. And I think as we age, right. And I think as I age, it's going to be different, like as I get to different decades of my life. Because now that I think about it, like my grandma on my mom's side. So one thing that I couldn't stand was like for holidays, like we all used to go to Canada, get together, and we'd have holidays at my grandparents' house. And the girls always had to do the dishes. And I used to be like, why do the boys get to go kick their feet up with their fat stomachs? And we have to be in here doing dishes. And that was just the way my grandma was. That's how she was raised. But then my grandma was also very much full, like love the makeup, always at her hair, always has her hair dyed, won't let a gray hair show, very well put together. So now that I think about it, I do remember that part. But I think as I get older, I want to be the little grandma where my grandkids are like, oh my gosh, she makes the best cookies. Or like, I love to go to my grandma for this mac and cheese because my grandma has those recipes. Like she makes the best peanut butter cookies. And I want my grandkids to say that about me. So eventually I'll get into my my little baking bag and learn how to cook little treats, and, certain little carry on traditions with my son. So I think as I get older, the definition of my femininity will change. I was trying to count the syllables out for y'all so you can get the word.
Write it down.
So I'm going to say feminine energy. My safe word. But it's funny that you said that, Franny. At first, I can make a meme. If I can't make nothing else, I can make a meme macaroni and cheese. So when we have this random potluck of Canada food
with mac and cheese, really?
Yeah, I can make macaroni and cheese. That's
can you confirm?
I don't think I had your macaroni and cheese. I just know that you
no.
That it usually.
Yeah, that's my favorite food, but that's the one thing that I can make. That's the one thing my family will allow me to make.
Hey, that's Thanksgiving too. That's mac and cheese.
So we'll have that when I come to Michigan. But one thing that you said, Fran, in regards to what you saw with your grandma and like women, like the girls have to do the dishes, stuff like that. I will say, like coming from a family of mostly women, like we're just now starting to get like a lot of boys and men into like boys who are growing into men in our family. So I think the biggest thing when I think about like the women in my family who were married, like when I think about like my aunt and like when my grandmother was married, things like that, or even my mom with my stepdad, like I think they did tap into that feminine energy when they were married, right? Like they were the ones who were like making their plates and, they did the dishes or they cooked, things like that. So I think it also just comes with the territory. And I think it goes back to what we talked about, like, do I feel safe? Do I feel like I can be vulnerable? And when you have those two things, then I think that also helps you feel more comfortable to really tap into that feminine energy.
Yeah, I think it'll come natural at that point because I feel like you're locked in,
right?
You're committed. So I think it'll just come natural. I think that the people that are asking about it is the ones that's not really trying to commit anyways, and they trying to figure out what they can get. But anyway, I digress. So now we'll have a relationship topic. Go a little deep.
Yes, we will. But when you think about, so as we kind of talked about what it means to be a woman, when we do think about women out there who may not have those examples, who may not have been able to, and still trying to figure out what it means to be a woman, like what are some takeaways that you would like to leave with them? What are some gems?
I think what we all have in common is like that confidence and self-worth. We're like, you can't pour from an empty cup. So getting yourself together first. And then like, really, what is it that you want? What do you, as a character, right? As your own being, what do you want to display to the world? What gems do you want to give off? Because for me, and one thing that I have prayed about constantly is that like, God, I want to be a reflection of your love. So forget being a woman, right? I just want to be a good character. I want to leave my mark on this world. And for me, that's, again, taken a lot of work because I have been damaged by different things that have happened in my life, and it's affected my character, my personality. And so I just want to be a good person all around and get that off. So feminine energy for sure, but like just being a reflection of God's love is the most powerful thing to me. So to answer your question, Neek, confidence and self-worth is what I've heard throughout this whole conversation is what you need to be a woman.
Yes, I love it. What about you, Shay?
Hey, ditto to that, because how can you come behind that? I definitely agree. Confidence, that foundation. I think like we all talked about taking some time, taking a step back and really defining who we are, taking the space to really work that out. You're not going to find that from somehow being in a relationship. I think you just need to take the time to really, what do you want, and really work it towards that. And then trial and error, I would say too, like try it. If it works for you, you like it, continue doing it, regardless if it's the hair, the makeup, the nails, whatever self-care looks like for you, because it's different for everybody. But really just creating that foundation of who you are first. I think that's just so important.
Yeah, no, I plus one to everything you all said. And I think it's never too late to build that self-confidence. I think I want to just really highlight that. Like, it's never too late to just say, hey, my confidence is not the best. I don't know how to love myself properly, but it's never too late to figure that out. And, Shay, I'm going to agree with you 100%. As someone who went from like relationship, marriage, relationship, things like that, the thing that helped me figure out what self-confidence was being by myself, was taking the time to really just figure out, how can I deal with Shaniqua? And do I like what I see in the mirror, for real? And sometimes those answers were no. So how do I fix this, right? Like, what do me and my therapist need to focus on so I can say that I love me and be real about it, right? And there's no age limit on that. You can be 18 or you can be 85. Like, the beauty about life, and Franny, God's love, like you saying that is like, if your character is in a good standing, then you're able to do and build whatever feminine energy you need to. But I will also say that if your character is not in a good standing, then you do need to really figure out what that looks like. And that's okay too. I think a lot of times, because society talks a lot about like, we need to be soft women, or as Black women, we're too hard or we're too independent, it can kind of harden you, right? It's like, if this society already sees me like this, then what's the point of changing? And you got to be able to kind of definitely mute out the noise and say, okay, I want this for myself. I'm not doing this because society said I need to be like this. I'm doing this because I want to do this. So I think everything you all said when it comes to like, whatever self-care looks like, having that confidence, having that self-love, like having God's love, like those are the 4 starting points to kind of really figure out what that feminine energy looks like for you.
Yeah, and I know we're about to wrap it up, but you just hit on some stuff where I'm like, ooh, because I know you guys heard in the news about that guy that just got killed by his girlfriend who was white, and he was bashing Black women. You heard that story? No, Shay, you didn't hear it?
No.
Yeah, so, and I won't go into it because I know we're again wrapping up. But just even like you said, Neek, like I've heard Black men say, "I'd rather date like a white woman or someone else because Black men or Black women are too independent. They got it, or they're not soft enough in that." And so I remember that playing like playing on my mental at a point in time. But now I'm just like, all right, then you're just gonna have to get you a snow bunny, baby, because You
This is
know,
what
and
it
not,
is.
yeah, and not dispute like minimizing the fact that of course there are always things we have to work on, but just to the fact that you even put Black women, group them together, and all Black women are too hard, all Black women don't listen or whatever, aren't submissive. And so no, I know that's a whole nother topic that we could get on to, so I had to piggyback off of that. But I think we had a great discussion today, ladies. Did anyone want to add anything else before we wrap it up?
No, I think we hit it,
No, I agree. And I think this was a great segue as we kind of get into Women's History Month, right? I think having this conversation of who taught us how to be a woman, I think that's probably something that some of the greatest women of all time probably had that conversation with themselves, because I think what ends up shaping us from nature, nurture, from what we experience, like you said, Shayna, like being these 80, 90 babies, like the community raised us, right? So being able to kind of have different situations and grow and pick from that is what shaped us. So I think this was a great episode to kind of segue into this month.
Yeah. So we appreciate everyone that's been watching us thus far. Like Neek said in the beginning, we've been getting great feedback. And again, drop comments, what topics that you want to hear. And we're also looking for like a cute outro. We haven't been able to get it. So if you guys have suggestions, let us know.
For sure.
But we hope everyone has a blessed week. Remember, new episodes drop every Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern. And, stay blessed.
On
We love
TAN
you.
Awesome. Great. Thank you.